Digit Institute.
Hello everyone. Today we are here to understand the coding standards. So how a beginner can write the code and how a senior or pro person can write the code. So going forward, we are going to understand the differences in this. So how the coding standards will be from beginner to the pro level. So let's start this with an example of an login page. So you know very well what is a login page is about. Okay, so login page will be like we are going to have an username or email or a phone number, and we are going to have a password so that user can log in into the application. So let's have this example of login page and we'll check the code, how a beginner is going to write the code, how he's going to apply the styles, how he's going to write the JavaScript for that. Okay, and we'll go and compare the code with the senior, that is a pro level as well. So let's go forward with these things and we'll understand more about the coding standards. So first, we're going to understand here how and what pages we are going to build here. So here I'm taking an example of simple login page where we are going to have basic HTMLs, okay, and the HTML form where we can create that login email or through phone number or through an username, and we are going to have a password. So these all things can be accepted with the HTML form. Okay, so here we are going to understand how a beginner friendly code will be and how a professional standards code will be here. So the goal is to make you guys to understand the differences between how the beginner is going to write the code and the professional standards will be in this pro coding. So going forward now, first, we'll talk about this beginner login page with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so here he is going to write the code without any coding standards because he is going to have the less knowledge, but he can understand the concepts, but he don't know how to apply the styles. He don't know how to apply the JavaScripts. But the beginner coder can understand the concepts but he cannot apply them. Okay, and he cannot showcase his vision of UI here to this login page. So let's check a code of these beginners and how he wrote, and we'll check the output of that. Then we'll compare with the pro code here. First, I want to show you here the code of the beginner. Okay, so this is a Visual Studio Code editor where we have a login page here, which is written by a beginner. Okay, so here you can see there is a styles here. You can see HTML elements and you can see the JavaScript as well. So all these are in one page. Fine. So let's check the output for this now. So I'll make it as this go live. So when you open this here, you can see a beginner's output, how it looks. Okay, so here you can see he has been applied some CSS styling here, but the visualization of UI, how he should showcase this email password, the login form title, the button here when you click on this login, okay, and the JavaScript validations. So here, if you go and check this, he written the JavaScript validations here based on this on submit login event. Okay, so here is using the login event, so he can check the email and password, okay, and create an alert box here. For example, if you go and check this and click on this login here, you can see an error message here, email and password. Okay, there is no proper convention here that's saying you need to add here a proper validations and everything. So he just created a pop-up saying email and password is missing, but that too he did not convert it in this way. But when it comes to pro coding here, so the experienced person coding here, okay, will be something different with all the coding standards. So let's understand that also. Then we'll have a comparison of the both codes and explain you how it is different from beginner and the pro code. So let's go back to our thing here. So here in this beginner login page, here he's going to have basic HTML structure. He's going to create form inputs and labels. Okay, he's going to have an event handling here that we called as a method prevent default. Okay, so simple method without any validations and everything. Okay, so here if you observe, he has used the CSS, he has used the JavaScript, and he has used the HTML elements as well. So let's check this pro here. So the second one is here. We are going to understand the pro login page where we are going to have same HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, you will be understanding the difference in these two very quickly here. So let's check the code of the pro level. So I'm going to go to again the code editor here. So here the pro level code is going to have a separate files of styles and JavaScript and a proper aligned and proper structured HTML code. So here this pro level is going to follow all the coding standards. The reason I'm mentioning this coding standards is, okay, when you write a code, it should be a reusable thing here. Okay, so this reusable code can be helpful again and again. Okay, so this reusable code you can use when you are going to follow the coding standards. So let's check this output of this pro here. So when you compare this beginner and when you check this login page here, you can see there is a lot of difference in the UI, the look, how it is. So you can see a button here with this hover effects. You can see email, you can see password. You can see here how the login form it is in the beginner's code. Okay, so here when you click on this login, you can see here an error message, please fill in this field first. Okay, so then if you type here some test, okay, at the rate gmail.com. Okay, or I'll say here just I'll remove this and I'll add here test, and again I'll click on login. If you go and check, you can see a proper error message saying please include an at the rate in the email address. Okay, so I'm going to add at the rate gmail.com. Okay, then again I'll click on login. You can see here another error message saying he need a password here. So I'll type some password here, say digit. Okay, so you can see here, please length this text to 6 characters or more here. So here is throwing an error saying that the password should be more 6 characters. Okay, so it should not be any 1 character, 2 character, 3 character, 4 character, or 5 character. It should be 6 or more than 6. So I'll add here digit IT. So when you click on login here, you can see login successful for test here. You can see this pop up here. So this is like a pro level of coding here, where you can see the perfect validations and you can see a alert box, how it's showing as you have been logged in. So all these functionalities, okay, a proper JavaScript code and proper CSS has been written in separate pages. You can see this style.css file here, where he written all the CSS with coding standards, and you can see the JavaScript file where he created a validations here and is showing an alert box at the success of this log. So all this can be done in the pro level when compared to the beginners. So beginner, he know very well the CSS, JavaScript and HTML concepts, but he cannot understand how he's going to apply those things. Okay, he'll maybe like little confused to add this HTML, CSS and JavaScript into one place. Okay, so here you can see pro level code. He wrote a proper HTML, CSS and JavaScript here. Okay, so now let's check the code comparison of these two here. Before that, I want to tell you here, when you come to this pro level, okay, what students can learn here is form validations, responsive layout. Okay, so whenever you are going to create any web page here, it should be responsive. So no one is going to tell you it should be responsive. Okay, so as a beginner or a senior developer, okay, or you can be a senior code or a beginner code, you need to understand this coding standards with responsiveness and everything. So when you use this coding standards here, you can create reusable classes. Reusable classes are nothing but simple. If I wrote a class name and I apply some CSS to that class, so the same CSS, if you want to apply for another HTML element, so I can use the same class name. So that we call as a reusable CSS. Okay, or you can say reusable class names. Okay, so this should be done in the coding here. So this is what the difference between the pro and the beginner codes. Okay, so let's, before going to the next part here, I want to tell you something that we go and compare these codes here. So this is senior. Okay, then this is the beginner code. You can see these two codes here. Okay, so here when we start the comparison in between these two, okay, first, we don't have any HTML standards here in the beginner, but when it comes to pro, you can see all the HTML standards. So you may be thinking what type of HTML standards will be here. The major thing here is the structure of the HTML here. Okay, so here you can see head, okay, meta tag and the title. But when it comes to a pro level of coding, you can see here head and title with all these meta tags. Okay, so these meta tags are very much important in the HTML file. Okay, so you can see here fav icon and the style sheet how we added here. but here you can see the styles how we added. Okay, so this type of styling is not accepted in the coding standards. So coding standards in CSS will be like, we are going to create an external file here and we are going to write this CSS in a proper manner so that it applies and makes the login page looks good in all the devices. Now I'm not talking about the single device, it should be look good in all the devices. So when we talk about these devices, it will be like mobile, tab, laptop, desktop. So here user can use any device. Similarly, user can use any browsers. Like we need to have a browser compatibility in the coding standard. So browser compatibility is nothing but user is going to use Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer. If Apple laptops we have, so he's going to use Safari browser. So whatever the browser it is, it should look good in all the browsers and should be compatible with all the browsers here. So that is not there in this beginner code. And here you can see all these standards here. Fine. So let's compare the other thing. So when you see this body tag here with this form element, so here also you can see this body tag with the form element. Okay. So here in this coding standards, you can see a break tag. Okay. So never ever use this break tag. So this break tag is not going to helpful for responsiveness. Okay, so we are going to adjust the elements, okay, only by purely CSS so that it can be fit to other devices. And if you want, you can change those CSS based upon the device size. Okay, so that's what the major thing here. When we come back to our JavaScript, so you can see here JavaScript is in written in this internal format here, but here you can see it is in a JavaScript file where we created a file name called script.js. So here you can see a simple function with the function name where we are going to use this prevent default method and check the values of email and password. So here we don't have any validations. Okay, we don't have any validations here. But when you compare this JavaScript code, we have a proper validations where we can show the error messages. And at this successful login, you can see an alert box saying that you have been successfully logged in. So here you can see we have a email and password validation. Okay, so it is going to check each and every validation and it is going to throw us the error messages here. Okay, so this is about coding standards will be between beginners and this pro level coders. Okay, so as coding standards here, we need to have proper naming conventions. Proper naming conventions is nothing but the class names, the elements of HTML, or if you are going to style an element, or if you are going to add some JavaScript for that element, it should be in a proper ID name or a proper class name. The naming convention should be properly there. Okay. The second thing is semantic HTML is nothing but we need to add proper HTML elements where we can showcase the coding standards of HTML elements here. So here, when you go and check this, okay, here you can see a label tag, but you can see a break. Here you can see input type, and you can see a break again. But here you can see clearly a label tag and the input is been wrapped in a container called this div with a class name called form group. So that's what the difference in this two here. Okay. So this naming conventions and this semantics HTML elements we need to use properly. Okay. So the reason why I'm telling you to use this properly. So this is going to save a lot of time for our compatibility of the browsers and for our responsive layouts. Okay. So next we are going to understand the accessibility practice and separate logical and desired files here. So when you are going to apply from JavaScript or CSS here, you need to apply them separate files. Okay, that will be happening a code base here. Okay, so this code base is going to helpful to maintain the coding standards. So when you talk about this coding standards, so as a digit, okay, we are here to train you in a proper coding standards, how to apply the CSS to the elements, how to apply the JavaScript to the elements. So how to merge these files into the HTML so that the functionality or the styling works properly here. So with all the coding standards, we are here to train you. Okay. Hope you understand, guys. Thank you. Thank you for your time.